First of all, I'd like to thank for this opportunity to present our thoughts and ideas for the Kimball of the next generation. We are, my good colleague Jeff Davis, partner in Nexus from Salt Lake City, and from myself, my name is Bjarke Ingels from Big in New York. And we also Leon Rost, my partner Helge Bergman, and Daniel Kidd, who happens to be a Salt Lake City native from Logan. Apart from us from Big and Nexus, we have been collaborating with Dunn Associates on structure, on DBFA, on mechanical installation, and vision engineering on electric, and on Big D. Miraculously, there's actually space enough for 2 bigs in this team. Big D on constructability and costs. And we've been spending the last week doing a very necessary in-depth research, trying to sort of uncover the charm of Park City and testing some recent technology and movement. But I think part of the at the core of the raw charm of Park City is that it comes from this sort of unique history of repurposing the structures of the industry of the past into the framework for life and leisure and culture and art of the present and the future. So of course, Park City itself is the reinvention of a mining city, and as the mines dried out, the plumes of the smokestacks became the plumes of the snow canyons. Of course, like this week, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Olympics. Of course, the Sundance Festival has really sort of put Park City on the cultural map. We had the joy of participating in the last days of the Sundance last weekend. And of course there's a Kimball Art Festival, and in general, like this former mining town has really become this sort of cultural mecca for physical culture and sort of the culture of the arts. And at the core of this, the Kimball Art Center is essentially itself a reinvention of a former infrastructure. It's like Heber C. Kimball and his family started the Kimball livery. As technology evolved, horses got replaced by automobiles, and eventually Bill Kimball in the 70s, unrelated to the former Kimballs. Also, Park City is big enough for 2 Kimballs. Created the Kimball Art Center, which is essentially the repurposing of a garage into an art center. And at the core of this is that the Park City clearly has a unique sort of urban cityscape. This sort of the amount of like the wooden structures, the former industrial buildings have made it this sort of a unique environment that has an incredible charm and that really deserves sort of a respect for the heritage and the cultural preservation, but also as part of the sort of the skyline or the urban image of Park City. Was sort of right next to, like this is the Kimball before it became the Kimball Art Center, and right next to it was the Coalition building, which for decades was this sort of significant landmark for the mining industry. This unique, relatively slender wooden structure, which was actually where the lifts for the silver mines arrived before they got loaded onto the trains. So essentially, in a way, it was for the mining industry what the town lift is for the skiing today. And this silhouette isn't part of the urban image of Park City anymore, because it burned down in a catastrophic fire in 1984 and has since never been recreated. It's a really sort of charming structure that's like it stood 80 feet tall and was of course like, because back then when the whole city was about mining, it was really sort of the landmark for the mining industry. Looking at the new Kimball and the program that we were given that has been developed to to expand the framework of the Kimball to accommodate more facilities, more learning spaces, and better and more generous exhibition spaces. We try to see what happens, like how much space is it actually. And even though the program itself is not very big, the generosity, the necessary generosity of the exhibition spaces makes it a relatively significant volume. If we spread it out and sort of cover the entire existing Kimball Art Center, it would take up this much space. We could also consolidate all of the new program into a single footprint and leave, basically preserve the existing Kimball Art Center and the existing building sort of almost intact. And we started like playing around with different ways of resolving the program, and it turned into this sort of an odyssey of possibilities. I'll spare you the trouble. But gradually we started developing feelings for something that we thought actually really in many ways responded to the unique challenges of the situation. So essentially, if we just go through sort of a 30-second history of Park City. Park Avenue used to be the main street with Kimball between Park Avenue and Main Street. As Deer Valley Drive became sort of the main arrival point. When we arrived for Sundance, we actually came down Heber, like looking at the future site of the new Kimball. So the Kimball today is really nested at this incredible sort of urban node that isn't really sort of at the geographical center of Park City, but also at the sort of cultural center and the infrastructural center of Park City. And of course, by moving the main entrance towards Main Street and Heber, it really becomes this pivoting point of the cultural life of the city. So what we sort of arrived at after testing all these different options is that we decided to leave the existing structure as intact as possible, in a way clean it up a bit. But essentially, when you have a limited budget, you have limited means, when you start doing massive refurbishments, you really interact massively with something existing. It's almost like opening a Pandora's box of potential misery, because you never know what you're going to find as soon as you start hammering on the existing conditions. We thought we turned the existing building into essentially the learning center, an education facility. And then we consolidate the exhibition programs, the lobbies, the arrival, the restaurant into this new concentrated building. So it becomes more like the successful marriage of two distinct entities, rather than trying to radically transform the existing Kimball building. So basically the program consists of two main galleries. The lower gallery we nested into the slope, aligning to Main Street, sort of opening up for pedestrians passing by. And the upper gallery we lifted all the way to the top of the building, and we turn it towards Heber Avenue, so that people visitors arriving to the city will be able to see into the exhibitions of the upper floor, almost like a sort of a friendly building that turns its head to sort of invite visitors. Welcome to my hometown. And this sort of simple idea creates a quite simple layout where you have the education center in the existing building along Park Avenue. You have the arrival, lobby, restaurant, and also the administration sandwiched between the volumes of the two main galleries. And what we brought the site model, we had to build a bigger model so we could sort of appreciate the Kimball's presence in the urban context in the larger scope, also looking at the slopes on both sides. And this new volume sort of when we stack the galleries and the restaurants on top of each other, we actually reach almost exactly the same proportions as the former coalition building. So you can say the new Kimball could really stand as a beacon for the cultural life and the art world of the new Park City in a similar way that the coalition stood as a landmark of the mining town of the past. And this sort of gesture of turning its head doesn't only address Heber Avenue, but it also makes the building almost peek up and down Main Street as this sort of friendly building looking across the corner. And of course, as you arrive from Heber, you'll be able to see what's going on at the top when you come down the hill, and from the street looking into the lower galleries from the sidewalk. So if we go through the program, again, you arrive on the main lobby from Heber Avenue on the corner of Main Street. To the left, you see the series of classrooms. And then we propose to create an assembly space, like a very generous staircase that could be an informal auditorium, but it could also be an assembly space where, for instance, like groups of school children can accumulate before and after they visit the museum. This big generous staircase also takes you down to the lower floors where you have a series of support functions. Also from the alley at the bottom along Main Street, we have the loading dock that allows art to be moved straight into the lower gallery and also into the elevators. Back up at the main entrance, when you arrive to visit the museum, you have the ticketing, you have a view down into the main gallery, and along the main street you can follow the slope and actually come down into the big exhibition space. Or you can take the generous staircase up in the gap between the exterior facade of the building and the galleries that stand at these two big volumes inside the space of the museum. You arrive up to the upper floor on top of the gallery where you have a restaurant, the kitchen, and a direct access to a new roof terrace sitting on top of the existing garage building. On top, again, this space is very generous. So you have the back of house functions, the kitchen, and the toilets related to the restaurant. And as you then move up here, you can see the sort of generous space with the central core of the restaurant. People dining around the core, and the possibility to flow straight out on this new roof terrace that becomes like this courtyard in the middle of this busy corner of Park City. And from here you can follow, again, walking along the perimeter of the building and this sort of sculpturally warping wooden wall. You come up to the administration. Visitors will simply pass the administration, but the administration is located as the foundation for the upper gallery. All of the staff have these offices with sort of an enviable view of the surrounding valley. Continuing further up, this stair finally arrives at the large, generous gallery at the top that has both the panoramic view of the Wasatch Mountains, but also the possibility for skylights. And from here, the stair basically continues further up and arrives at the roof terrace that becomes like this incredible outdoor gathering space, both for outdoor installations, outdoor sculpture, or various events. So you can see how the circulation simply follows the perimeter of the building, gently spiraling up until it reaches the top. And this is sort of a look into the building where you see only the wooden structure with the two galleries taken out. We propose to turn the roof terrace into a sculptural garden, but also it has these skylights and thermal solar panels that Jeff is going to get more into detail with. But essentially this garden that consists of native plants, these tall grasses that you find around in the valleys, simply frame the sort of the sustainability and daylight sculptures, and it becomes like this big tall garden. You have an outdoor terrace where you can move out almost like and of course you have the loop of the sculptural garden. And this terrace almost becomes a reintroduction of this of the generous porch where the restaurant can pull out under the canopy of the turning wooden building. And finally, this building, like a major sort of element of what creates the character of any building is essentially what it's made out of. And again, looking a little bit back to the history of Park City, most of the historical structures, like few of them stand today, but like historically almost all structures were built out of wood. Today wood is still like a very significant cladding in the city. But also the old mines were actually reinforced with this sort of stacked timber, like log constructions of overlapping logs. And of course the log cabins themselves had this unique, essentially historically Scandinavian way of building with a massive timber. And this building technique has been sort of developed into a more refined sort of Utah construction principle. Here it's in hiring this silo with these square logs and these like incredibly elegant corner details. And even if you go back to the Hogans of the Navajos, again the solid timber and this sort of gradual twisting of or turning of the straight members create these organic domes. Finally, the Southern Pacific Railroad used to have a train line that went across the Salt Lake, founded on these piles, wooden piles that were hammered deep into the Salt Lake, and where they sort of over decades practically marinated into this new special wood with an incredible rich texture. Right now there's a company that extracts and reuses these old logs called trestle wood, and it has this incredible texture and materiality unique to the Salt Lake. So we essentially propose to use this material and this traditional construction technique. It's essentially you stack the solid logs because of the massive scale of the wood. It has the depth to insulate. It has the strength to carry itself, and all we need to do is connect it with these rebars. Here you see the corners. And essentially, because of the depth of the wood, we can gently rotate each piece of timber when the building turns its head to look up Hiba Avenue. Within the straight members, even though it's a sort of, we call it a double curving sculptural surface, it is actually made out of these straight logs. It's an inherent property of this way of building. You can call it like a very contemporary expression of the very traditional material. And finally, for the galleries inside, the sawmills of the past used to be essentially these steel structures working inside a wooden framework.
Yeah, and one of the really great things about this building is the layers of stories that support this concept. And inside the Coalition building, you actually have this steel mechanism that, if you can imagine, the carts of steel or of silver coming off of the mountain and then rotating through. So you have this twisting motion inside the Coalition building. And it with this, we have the steel building on the inside with the circulation of the people as if they were the cars of silver circulating through the Coalition building that create this twisting motion in the actual design of the building. So I'm just going to walk through a little bit of the structural and some of the sustainability issues on the project. The structure is really three systems: a concrete core where the elevator is, which acts as a structural element, and then you have this steel building that is built. It's really a separate building that supports itself, and then you start to bring in the circulation that goes around the building, and then you add this self-supporting wood structure that creates the twisting, elegant, simple architecture with the forces that go down. So as you look up through the building, you see these wonderful views of this twisting wood contrasted against this steel building where the galleries sit. And then at this restaurant level, how it opens up to the light in the windows, and the light starts to filter down from above through that circulation space. And you interact with that both on the floor level and at the garden level. So this is the structural grid of the existing building, and we build upon that and want to keep that in place. There will be some reinforcing that would need to occur, but then we want to keep these beautiful bow trusses that are here, and allow some light to come down through it, and essentially build a concrete structure for this rooftop patio that goes, as Björk said, the front porch that wraps around. And then in the middle, we have this series of skylights and solar thermal, where we're heating hot water with the use of the sun, that's surrounded by this native plant piece. So when you're inside this gathering space, this assembly space, you're looking up through these skylights, through the bow trusses, and you have this connection that's up to this roof garden, and then the actual building up beyond. So from all points within the building, you're interacting with all of these different artistic and elements.
Maybe one thing, one of the things that for us has been especially exhilarating by this project is that wood today is used typically just as a cladding, almost like a cosmetic layer. It's like a thin cladding on top of like some kind of a complicated sandwich of rock wool and stud walls and chipboard. So it's really been reduced to a sort of a cosmetic veneer, or almost like the image of wood, whereas in this case we really have the chance to work with the sort of physical, material, tactile, tectonic qualities of real massive wood, and in this case real massive wood that has been marinating in the salt lake for decades and become this almost like a new kind of material. So we literally, when we built the model, the large model, we literally built it exactly the way that you would build it in real life, with the individual logs overlapping log by log. So here you see the learning center to the left, and then the sort of the art museum with the galleries, and the sort of the turn that happens around the public space in the middle, and finally moving all the way up to the top. So essentially, it is almost like a physical material sculpture where the surface on the outside, the surface on the inside, and the core within, like, is essentially exactly what you see is exactly what it is. And for an architect today, that's like a very unique opportunity to do something that has such integrity and such authenticity because of the complicated nature of contemporary construction. So in a way, again, like getting something, become allowed to sort of build something that is really truly genuine and at the same time has a very sort of strong artistic expression.
Yeah, so just to look through some of the plans, we really started out with the grid of the existing building and then built upon that grid and extended it through the new building. So you can see that we just extended that through. And then this gathering place, just to note on that again, it really becomes a place where you can bring in groups. For example, a school bus shows up with a group of kids and they come in and you need a place for them to gather and maybe to introduce what they're going to see. And you can move right from this assembly space directly into this gallery or directly into the large freight elevator or the smaller elevator and go up to the upper gallery. As well, there's just some of the details, there's a separate staff entrance with almost a coat room where they can drop off their things and move directly over to the elevator and get right up to their space. And then on this main level, we have really the education piece over here, and we have these movable walls that separate to make the art studios really flexible so that you can use it for different uses or different sizes at different times. And then one of the really great amenities is, it's a little difficult to see on this, but there are doors that open out onto the street. And that's right where the main entrance right here to the Kimball is. And if you can imagine these artists during an art festival having all their supplies, whether it's welding or whether it's painting or sculpture, but being able to do the art out on the street, interacting with the people. Yeah, it's this other layer of the festival. And so again, we've talked about this roof garden that opens directly out into this the restaurant area, some restaurant service space, and then the offices around the perimeter that have these great views out. with really the heart of the office, the interaction piece around this core where people are circulating and right off of this large boardroom, conference room. And so that the heart of the activity in the administration is there at the center. And then the upper gallery with free spans, completely open, very flexible, and of course the upper roof garden that has these great, incredible views out across Park City. So just to reiterate, here's that gathering space where you can move right over to the elevator and go up, or move beyond it over into the main gallery. The existing trusses, the light that comes down through, the generous galleries. If this wants to be a world-class art center, it really has to have these high spaces to accommodate those types of things. And then we went through and really got into the details of how this actually works and how the structure works, how it interacts with the existing building, how it creates this light well that lets light down through the circulation space that really then spills all the way down through the building. You can see it up there at the top as it spills down through that circulation space, creating this great play of shadow and light with the twisting form. So it's really the preservation of this existing building with the twisting form. Natural daylight, skylights on the top, nice open windows at the street level so you can see in, see what's going on. Some cross ventilation, utilizing the cool evenings and the cool nights of Park City to flush the building out at night and disperse the heat during the summer, and so that it's already charged in the morning when the heat comes in with the cool air inside. A great energy savings. The solar thermal generated off of this area where the skylights are, that has radiant floor system potentially that goes through the areas that don't need the humidification for the art. And then that there are several different options that we've explored with the engineers about a ground coupled heat exchange system where we bore these holes down into the ground and utilize the ground's heat. And then rainwater collection. In Utah, this has been an issue that's gone back and forth. In the legislature, I was involved with my partner in putting on a presentation about it, but there are two obstacles. There's an upfront cost that we really need to analyze, and then there's the process to go through to get the approvals through the state. But we think it's a great opportunity to incorporate that. So you really have this iconic building that speaks to the culture.
And then maybe just to sort of recap what hopefully in our fantasy could be a visit to Park City in a handful of years. This new citizen that at the corner of Main Street and Heber turns its head and looks up and down the street. A visit inside where like almost you can actually look into the exhibitions in the lower gallery already from the lobby, or you can start sort of exploring this new communal space that at the courtyard really is a space where people can come essentially without necessarily being drawn towards the art, but simply because of the generosity of the space as a place to meet. The extension out on the roof terrace, and the continuation up to explore this sort of amazing gallery and the amazing new space on the rooftop at the heart of the city. And of course, it really will be the first and last thing you see when you visit Park City in the future. So you can say, in a way, you can see it sort of recreating the silhouette of the Coalition building that until recently stood as a beacon of the sort of mining heritage of Park City, simply in this case by recreating it as a landmark for the art and culture. By doing so, we also continue this unique tradition for turning the infrastructure of the past industry into the framework for the cultural life and the community of the future of Park City. Thank you very much.